Right, guys, and welcome back. This is Above Average FPL. My name is Adam, and as always, joined by Baker. How are you doing, mate?
Very well, mate. Friday night.
Friday night, international football coming up. Wildcard week for a couple of us. We've got a guest on this evening.
Not me.
Not you. Not you. So, yeah, no, we've got a guest on this evening. So, as much of an introduction as you need, I don't know, but we've got Andy from Let's Talk FPL to come and help us/me decipher what to do with Wildcard and to see what he's thinking. So he's taking a break from his busy schedule, which we appreciate, to come and chat with us. How you doing, Andy?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. I'm hoping actually that you will give me some ideas for my wildcard because it feels like a bit kind of set already, and I don't like that like a week out. So yeah, there's a few spots up for grabs, I think. So it'd be interesting to talk it through.
Cool, man. Cool. So I think what we'll do, as we normally do with when we do have a guest on, we'll do the plugs straight away, get them out of the way, and then we can get right into the content that we want to talk about. Sound good?
Cool, let's go.
Let's go. Firstly, guys and girls, thank you for joining us. Whether you're catching up with the podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube, or whether you're with us in the live stream, we appreciate every single one of you. And that doesn't matter whether you found us for the first time here today, or whether you're a seasoned follower of the show. Above Average FPL is supported by our good friend Dan. He is at CryptoBlockDan on Twitter. Dan has been in the crypto space for many, many years, doing very, very well. And he's currently working as an analyst with a company who works specifically in play-to-earn crypto gaming. Now, if you're interested in the blockchain, if you're interested in NFTs and the use cases of the technology in the future, then please go drop him a follow. Go ask him some questions. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer anything that you need to know. If you haven't maxed out with your mini leagues yet, there's one more that you can join. That is UAT148. The auto join links are going to be down in the description below. Last year's winner, Jamie Pickett, is in there, so it must be a good mini league to be in, I would say. And we're going to shut entries at the start of the World Cup, so make sure you get in there nice and early and see if you can win it. If you enjoyed the content that you see today, there's a couple of ways in which you can support the channel. The first one is to like, comment, subscribe and review. It helps us promote the channel and it allows us to reach more and more people looking for weekly FPL content. Alternatively, Baker and I are really looking to grow the channel this year. We've had a great 12 months, but we're looking to take that even further. If you wish to support the channel in that way, we have our YouTube memberships open now. We're looking to do maybe better content, more content, anything that we can make the FPL experience better for you guys. We are going to try and do that. Finally, once again from Baker and I, thank you very much for being here. And now we'll get back to the good stuff. Perfect. So guys and girls in the YouTube chat, welcome to you this evening. If you're here for us, if you're here for Andy, we don't really mind, but it's good to see you. If you have a question, if you're on Wildcard, let us know and we can try and answer them as we go. We can even chuck some stuff up on the screen as well. So, get your questions in and we'll try and answer them. So we want to start at just looking at sort of the general sort of landscape of like the wildcard for game week 9, because it's a very, very different wildcard to what we're used to, in my mind anyway, in the sense that the fixtures that we're seeing are all turning in favour for sort of mid-table teams, or what we would consider mid-table or weaker teams. And we don't really have that premium team. I think I go back to last year and think about Chelsea in game week 8, and we all knew that the fixtures just flipped on its head and just went nuts for Chelsea. And we don't have that in the same way this year. Chelsea's fixtures are good, but not in the same way. And like top of all the tickers are all these weird teams that we weren't expecting, right? So what do you do with that information? What do you do with that information? Like Palace, Bournemouth, Leicester, Everton, Villa, West Ham are the top 6 on this ticker from Fantasy Football Scout, and it's rated based on difficulty leading from now up until the World Cup, basically.
Get 3 of each, boys. As you're all on Wildcards, I'll happily prompt you all to do that on it. But it is the nature in it, the fact that we've got like a 16 game week season, effectively, isn't it? Is that is we've got to play it. Like, for anyone who did Wildcard 8, you did it because you kind of had to. It wasn't necessarily, there wasn't many where it was out of choice. It was like you didn't want to take a load of hits to get through the week. So you played it then. And now this one's like, right, it feels like time. But it's very hard to say that you want to do more than one each from, say, the Palace, Bournemouth, Leicester, I mean, Everton, Villa, West Ham, Fulham. I mean, it just goes on, doesn't it? In
Oh,
terms of them.
it's horrific.
It's not nice viewing, that's for sure. But I think, like, I know we're going to come on to drafts in a minute, but I feel like in mine, I've still got 6 players from Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, and Arsenal. So it's not, I think it looks really bad if you just target the ticker, but there's obviously, do you know what I mean? Like 3 Crystal Palace players would probably be overkill, but Zaha sounds pretty good, right? Same with Leicester. I think, 2 to 3 Leicester players sounds awful, but Maddison sounds okay. Maybe a punt somewhere else if you wanted to. And obviously Dominic Solanke, who should be in everyone's teams at this point. Obviously is another one. So yeah, I think it's, for me, it's like, it's just, I'm not looking forward to it because I feel like it's been so easy with like triple. I said this before. Come on, triple Arsenal, triple City, a few Liverpool players dotted in, maybe a couple of Spurs as well. It doesn't look as nice now, but I also feel like because of what you said, we have to use it by 16, and after that, it doesn't matter. It's another, essentially like another free hit at a different team. It feels like even if you do get punished, it's not going to be for very long. So it's like we just, it doesn't feel as bad. I think if we could save that wild card a bit longer, we'd probably play. I don't know if it's the right word, but like a bit safer and probably have even more of the top 6 teams. But I think we can probably get away with it over the next few weeks.
So which of the teams? So okay, I guess you've already mentioned. So you're going to get one from each primarily. Are you looking at anyone from Everton, Villa, West Ham at all? I mean,
so the what? Yeah, yes, basically. I think for Everton it would have been Patterson. But obviously we're in the international break. Well, I don't think that's an international break injury. I think he came off, didn't he, after he's playing. So that's a genuine issue and he's probably not going to be back. But I think they've got some pretty nice fixtures dotted in. And obviously with such a cheap price. I think Villa I've pretty much discounted because the only one I can even think of, like Luca Dean's injured as well. Mings obviously is 4.3, but I just think there's probably slightly better options than him right now. And then the only other one is like Watkins maybe, but then he takes up a forward spot. And it's just not someone I want to put in. The one I quite like, who I'm not seeing mentioned that much, is Fabianski of 5 million for goalkeepers. I just, for every draft I put together, I'm just struggling to get that much money to spend on a goalkeeper. But I think their underlying stats so far have been pretty good, and they have played some of the tougher teams. And I think they've got a lot of, like, if you look at their home games on there, Wolves, Fulham, Bournemouth, Palace, Leicester, there's 5 out of the next 8 are all at home. They're all fairly good. So Fabianski's one I got mine, or if not, for a bench option, someone like Zuma possibly. They're really the only ones I'm looking at from those teams.
Yeah. What about the City Arsenal business though? Like, what do you think the maximum on your drafts? How many do you think you can carry into this? Because you haven't got long, have you? Most people that did wildcard in 8 will probably try and, if they can, carry the transfer in 9 because they're already thinking we're in trouble for 12, so they want to try and get those 2 transfers. But you guys now, it's like 2 transfers, then you're into Liverpool, City, and then you're into a blank for City and Arsenal. So a lot of your transfers, if you are going to make them, are going to end up there, albeit when you look at City and Arsenal's run on that fixture there, so City with Brighton, Leicester, Fulham, Brentford, and Arsenal with Southampton, Forest, Chelsea, Wolves, like,
you want them straight back.
You want them straight back, isn't it? So it's a really difficult game. What's your thoughts on how many do you think you can have more than 3 from City and Arsenal? No?
3 is the number I'm sat on, and I don't think I will go for more because I think even with 3, I'm probably going to have to use a transfer on 1. So if I put in 4, that's extra transfers. And like you said, you're going to want them straight back. And the thing is, after game week 12, it's not even just City you're going to want back. I think you could possibly argue if they're playing better, you might even want a 3rd Liverpool player. So I want to leave that route open. And also Arsenal. I think they've got, I'm trying to find them now. Yeah, they got Chelsea away in 15, but from 13 to 16, they also play Southampton, Forest and Wolves away. So even maybe getting like a Saka or a Jesus back if possible to go along with Martinelli, who I think most people will probably keep, is an option. So I don't want to go for more than 3 because it's just too many transfers to get them back. But that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm open to maybe going 2, but no less than that, I don't think.
Do you think you can build a squad big enough or strong enough in depth to actually carry a couple of those through that week though? Because I'm looking at 4 in the one that I'm presenting today in a minute, but no, I've done a couple here and there, and I have ended up with like 3 City and Martinelli, and I feel like I could go into, I mean, on my bench, we'll get to it in a minute, but on my bench, like I've got the likes of like Williams, and I've got Anderson from Palace, and I've got Andreas. And if you look at like 11 or even 12, so you took Fulham, we've got Villa at home, right? Palace have got Wolves at home, no concerns whatsoever with those. Brighton away for Forest. I mean, they're not going to get much of the ball away at Brighton with De Zerbi, I'd imagine, already implementing whatever he's trying to do. But they don't feel like ridiculously bad fixtures for a bench that I'm okay with. And so I'm probably not too concerned about benching two, at least, of these guys in 12. I know that puts me at a bit of risk for, if there's any ridiculous benchings or something like that. But I think you can probably carry two through that game week on the bench. I think there's enough money that you can build a team or a squad big enough to handle it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. I think I will probably bench two. I just don't know if I want to bench all three. I think so. Like Andreas Pereira is fine. Like I think if you've already wildcarded a while back or something like that, and you're waiting for that week, and you've got Andreas Pereira, you're probably okay playing him. But for me, because I'm wildcard, I feel like I can take advantage that I don't have to play him. I think I can build around that. So that's why I'm looking at maybe going three and selling one, then getting them back. Because the way I'm setting mine up is that I don't even know what my transfer is before game week 12 right now. I think game week 10 is a roll, like it usually is after a wild card. Game week 11, I'm not really seeing anything that stands out. So I'm kind of, playing it by ear to see what happens. So game week 12 could just be a luxury out and then back in. But I think the only thing I would say is I won't go out of my way to not play Andreas, but if I've got the transfers, then I'll probably do it. So like Webster for Brighton is another one, or even Dunk if you've got extra money that I'm looking at because it's Forest at home. So they don't have great fixtures outside of that. But if this is like your, second or even third bench player, it's probably not that much of an issue, especially when other people are possibly going to be scrambling that week to sort it out. That's how I'm thinking about it.
I think the defense options are pretty good though as well. Like, seems odd saying a Leicester defender, but like Justin at 4.3, Gahey at 4.4, for example, like rather than necessarily having say a 4.0 and a 4.5, you could have like a 4.3 and a 4.4, and it's not too much more.
I can't believe you've gone off brand. It's disgraceful.
I know. They will concede, obviously. But there's plenty of options. It kind of depends on if you're going to have four good defenders. And that comes back to a little bit as well about that. Do you get Trent in? Do you get Cancelo and James and Trippier? Because those are going to be probably the four. You're going to see those in loads of wildcards where they have those four. And therefore you've only got one to go to. Do you take one of those out and go down? But
unless you go super, super cheap goalkeepers, and then you got even more money to spend.
And then you've got super cheap goalkeepers. Super cheap keepers. We'll get on to keepers.
Yeah. So you can only get one Leicester player in there after that, can't you?
That's the biggest problem with them. Yeah, you can't get both the keepers, Justin and Maddison. Who thought I'd be saying that?
No one.
Unbelievable. Get your drafts out, boys. Get your drafts out.
Right. Let's start with you, Andy. So talk us through it.
Yeah, so I think there's quite a few players in here that I'm already kind of locked into. You're going to see in so many drafts, right? So I think Reece James is in pretty much everyone's. I think, I can't remember if we talked about it before we came on or afterwards. Like Chelsea's fixtures are pretty good, but there's so many away games in there. I'm just not sure. Obviously, a lot of us talked up the Fofana double up, and now we're a bit worried about that. But I don't know if I would even go there right now. So James is definitely in because we know the upside. Zaha and Maddison and Salah for sure. I think I'm going to keep Martinelli. I know there's been some chat about selling him, possibly getting ahead of the crowd, but there's two things. I'm really struggling to find someone that I like around that price. And I also don't know if I've got the money to kind of find that upgrade. So like Barnes, for example, could be a punt alongside Maddison, but that's going to cost me an extra 0.6. So I'm really struggling to get on board with selling Martinelli because I think I want him back. I spoke about those Arsenal fixtures just a minute ago. I think I want him back for that. And it's not like he's been a minute's risk or anything so far. So, yeah, he's definitely in. Haaland and Mitrovic, of course. It is worth saying, like, Mitrovic's price is almost the same as Tony's now. But the thing is, a lot of us obviously got on him early. So we can't. I don't really. Sorry, I can't really afford to sell him. And then we come on to the big one. So I've got Solanke up front, right, which I know like people don't like, but for me it's just a decision. I either go for Solanke or I go for Trippier in defence and go 4 at the back. But then you've got one less bench player. Or I go for Tony instead of Solanke, but then one of Cancelo or Trent has to go. That is the decisions for me. And I've just gone for the Liverpool boys from the start because I know I'm going to want them in game week 12. And so I'm just trying to save a transfer later on so I can mess about with the Arsenal Man City players instead. And like I said, Webster's on the bench because in game week 12 he's got Forest at home. He's a bit cheaper than Dunk and probably better goal threat, to be fair, as well for 0.1 less. And then Guaita's my other goalie. I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are on Guaita, because some people have put doubts in my mind about, if he picks up a minor knock, Vieira will be very happy to just not play him for a game. And like, I know Johnston's there. I don't know what you think the chances of that are, because I think Guaita is the 4.5 to go for. Do you think there's any doubts about that?
I do. Only because, as again, I can think of the pain that Tom, from who got the assist, had. He had Guaita at some point, and then he ended up in a spiral every week of, do I transfer my keeper or not? And then they had those weird like rotations of somehow he just kept dropping out or not. Johnston's just good, and it could happen. And Palace have been bad. Like, I know that they've had hard fixtures, but they've also been bad, in defence, certainly.
Worse than Leicester.
And Guaita's been bad. Should we, between drafts, should we do that goalkeeper thing that we've got?
Yeah, let's bring the.
We're on it.
Let's bring
I don't know about you, Adam, but like I'm finding goalkeepers the toughest part of this wildcard. Honestly, it's because I want to go a higher price, but I can't afford it. And the only other option is to go double Leicester. So I'm really struggling. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, I'm quite happy putting that additional. If you look at what like the double Leicester has provided so far, it's 8 points, I think. So I got that I got 7 of Ederson in game week 1. So I mean, I was quite happy paying the additional money, and so I've put together a selection here from the Opta analyst. You can see it's cut a little bit weird, but anyway, which is basically some keeper options that we're going to be considering over Wildcard. So.
And some not.
And some not. And some not. Yes. Well, I mean, they're still being talked about. That's the thing. That's why they're still in here. So, it's quite clear that Danny Ward is the worst goalkeeper that the Premier League's seen in about 20 years. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Am I being? I'm not being. No,
I mean, this is ranked on goals prevented in terms of XG conceded versus XG conceded on target. So it's not just total XG, it's the ones that could have actually gone in. And so shots that could have were on target, Danny Ward's conceded 4.5 more than what he should do. Yeah. So it's still a lot though. Like, he still had 15.5 XG conceded on target. That's just a huge number. But he's managed to still concede 20. It's just, you do have to wonder, and hopefully we do get some information on that, but you hope that he just doesn't come back after the international break. But he'll probably go away and play well for Wales. He normally does.
Well, didn't Hennessy play against Belgium?
Oh, did he?
I was just trying to look that up. Yeah,
Hennessy played against Belgium.
Wow.
So
maybe that tells us everything we need to know.
Yeah.
Well, that was it.
Probably does.
I think who was it? Was it Korf that said in our chat that said he just plays well for Wales. He's kind of like the Jordan Pickford type thing, who you just think's an absolute shit show for Everton, but then like England, you just just pick him because he's great when he plays in England shirt.
And we got Bournemouth keepers. So Travis started in the games. So for the first 4 games, I think he played, and managed to do minus 4.4 in 4 games, which is incredible. I mean, that's even worse than Danny Ward.
Yeah, but one of those against Liverpool.
Yeah, but it's still more than
Liverpool.
It's still more than what he should concede, though, isn't it? Like it's still the fact that he's letting goals in that he shouldn't. But they've now moved to Mr. Neto.
There he is,
Mr. Neto. He's all right. I'm here for the propaganda of saying that 4.5 Neto is not the Neto that's on our screen right now. Not Pedro Neto. but the second bandwagon, that Neto, he's doing okay. Like, he's just come into the team. He's conceded 1 goal from 11 shots. He was good on the weekend against Newcastle, I thought. Commands his area. 4.5. Like, the fixtures are there. I do think I would go for one of those 4.5s from the teams that are at the top of that ticker. So you've got, I don't know, when's Pickford back? Is he back tonight or not?
I don't
no,
know.
Pope's playing tonight. The
Pope's
thing is,
playing.
if you're really into Pickford, you could double up, right? You could go Pickford and Begovic.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to back Everton. So that is
They're
something
right.
I've briefly looked at if I wanted a 4.5.
Quite it just, so he's on this list as one of the baddies. But then I suppose Edison's on the list of one of the baddies, but Edison's not going to lose his place. But he is costing them and they're not keeping cleans. You know, I do think there's a chance that Guaita loses his place at some point. But yeah, Neto's more wild punt if you're looking at 4.5. He's going to get the shots and got the fixtures.
I don't think he's not going to get the low quality shots though, is he? I don't think not as often as you'd want from a Nick Pope Burnley type defense. That's not what you're getting from. You're not getting your Tarkowski and Ben Mee from Steve Cook. No, it's not Steve Cook anymore, is it? Who is it at the back? It's
who's at the back?
The Bournemouth. I'm completely unprepared
anymore
for the Bournemouth centre back.
Lloyd Kelly, he's there. He's definitely in the back. But they do drop in. They you know, I did feel like they restricted Newcastle pretty well. St James's Park to only concede 1 is actually a pretty good going. You know, I think a lot of us thought that was a banker clean sheet and that they'd put 2 or 3 away. That's why everyone went with Isak, who, you know, he got a pen. But other than that, they kept him pretty quiet.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up. I'm just having a look at the
fixtures are there. But I think it also depends on whether you got on Pope. Again, similar to what you said about Mitrovic. If you got on Mitrovic early, if you got on Pope early, then I think you're going to end up staying with it because Pope does what Pope does things and he's saving a lot of them. What about Alisson, or like going the extra money on saying Alisson and not having Trent?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think I would genuinely consider a double up. I know people absolutely hate Liverpool right now, but I think again, I don't think I can stretch that much with the team that I've put together. But if I'm looking at Pope, Alisson's only 0.2 million more. And yeah, they've got Arsenal away and Man City at home in 10 and 11, but the fixtures outside that are pretty good. And you only have to hold them till game week 16, of course. The only thing I'd be slightly worried about is I think Luis Diaz might be an option because I know we're all, well, at least I'm thinking that Nunez now might be, you know, rotated a little bit more. He might still get regular starts, but Jota and Firmino are going to play. And I just don't know if Luis Diaz is going to miss out as much. So I just don't want to close that door. I don't know if I would definitely go for him. But obviously, Alisson will then block the third. And, you know, Robertson's coming down in price. So if Cancelo or James got injured, there's a possible straight swap there. So I do like Ward. I do like Alisson just because his price is now so close to Pope's. But I just think it's always that third Liverpool spot that I just hate blocking off with the goalkeeper.
Leno there is as well for Fulham, but
I'm telling you, goalkeepers are a bad, horrible decision this week. Last week it was so easy; you just go for Pope. Yeah. And half of me thinks, well, if it was that easy last week, why is this 1 week making a difference? But it kind of is. The 4.5s are just all a bit. There's just I feel like there's question marks. Guaita, okay, will he lose his place? Neto plays for Bournemouth. And then, but then you need to go up, and like I'm just struggling to find the money. I really am. So I got to be honest with you right now. I think there's like a more than 50% chance I go double Leicester, even with Danny Ward. I know how bad he is. I know how bad they've been. They did have really awful fixtures to start the season as well. They're getting good now. I think it's possible, and because I just don't see how those double Leicester defenses are any worse than Leno or Neto or someone like that. And if Guaita's possibly going to lose his place, then he's not an option anyway. So I feel like for me, it's either 4 or it's 5. And I don't think there's much in between. Raya, possibly. Sanchez, maybe. The other issue is, sorry, just to go on about goalkeepers, is if we think there's a genuine chance that Ward's going to lose his place, then there's also a genuine chance that some of us on Wildcard are not going to have a backup keeper. So if, for example, I want to go for Sanchez, but I don't want to play in the next 2 games because it's Liverpool and Spurs, or Liverpool then Spurs, I think. and then I pick Ward and he loses his place, well, then I've got Sanchez, which might not be the end of the world, but ideally you want that rotation or that backup. So the only way to get a guaranteed backup is to have both of them. So I might do it, to be honest, just because of this issue we're having now, where none of us can decide who the best option is, unless you're spending more than 5.
Because I think the obvious, like if you can still afford it, and we'll look at defense in a minute, but Ederson and City,
Yeah.
But you go, oh right, what I could do is do Ederson and Ward, and you're like, oh my god, but by 12, what if he keeps doing what he's doing? He's never going to be there, and you can't do it. Yeah, rules Ederson really out completely, I think, at the moment. Let's look at Adams, and then we can just look at some more team data stuff.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. So I don't necessarily have the keeper issue because I already have Pope, which I'm quite happy with, and I think I'm trusting that either Rodgers does something different, or new manager comes in and says Danny Ward's crap because he's crap, and I've gone Everson as my backup just for the 3.9. It just feels easy to do. I don't think I'm going to lose any more value in that position. Pope, unless he's injured, isn't ever present anyway. And if he was to get sent off or injured, I would probably just replace him anyway. I probably wouldn't rely on my backup. I wouldn't want to. Well, I haven't got the keeper obviously to, unless he starts playing, of course. I mean, I've chosen to go without Trent at the moment. I think I'm a little bit heavier in the midfield, and I've got Trippier, Cancelo, and James at the back. I am kind of half booking a transfer in with Foden. I know that Foden has good games against United. He does enjoy playing against them, and you know, your little and large analogy last week, Baker, just
you want the Quinn and Phillips.
Want the
Haaland and Foden. It's the Quinn and Phillips. That's what it is.
That's exactly what I want. And so I have kind of half booked a transfer in for him, though, because I'm looking at moving him on to Zaha almost immediately. And then obviously I've got Salah in there, as we've spoken about. I don't know whether it's beforehand or whatever, but it just feels like too good an opportunity to pass up not to have Salah. It just makes no sense. Imagine at any point in the last 5 years saying that you were going to have an opportunity to captain Salah at home to Brighton at like 40% ownership or whatever it is. Like, it just, especially if you can have Haaland at the same time. Whereas I think the disadvantage in my mind is that people who are going Haaland, obviously they've got a decent enough fixture. I don't think that Haaland's not gonna do something, but you're not gonna have Salah. So unless you've got like Diaz, which you won't have either, because in game week 8 Liverpool had no fixture, so you weren't really you weren't bringing them in. Maddison, Martinelli, I think those two pick themselves. As a Tottenham fan, I'm not comfortable having Martinelli there, but I think longer term, I think I'll take his 2 points with his lost clean sheet, maybe 1 point after a yellow card. Fuck it, -1 for a red card. I don't care. Actually, no, red cards are bad because then I had to transfer him out. Own goal's fine. Red card, no.
Own goal's fine.
Yeah, cool. And then I've already had Tony in for a while, so I've kept him with a view to move him on to Mitrovic in a couple of weeks. And then I've got
lovely Solanke as well.
Solanke as well. So I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about Bournemouth, and I understand that they're a bad team, but they've had the worst fixtures of anyone. Like, they literally have had the worst fixtures of anyone. They've played an Arsenal team that control the game. They've played City. They've played Liverpool and got basically just. I mean, they were just absolutely trounced by Liverpool. They've had tough games, and he was injured at the start of the season as well. So his numbers are going to be lower anyway. It's an opportunity for him. This run of fixtures, and so I don't see why we don't give it a shot. I don't see why he can't.
All roads lead there, mate. Regardless of anything else, is there's not a man that's ever used FPL review or even just FPL team as this on here and flick through the fixtures, and by the time you get to game week 12 and you haven't got Salah in and you need Salah in, you're like, how do I do that? Dom Solanke. So even just getting him in now, it's worth doing because you're going to do it anyway in the next 3 weeks. So it's better to do it now than have to do it for a transfer. So I'm like, just do it. But should we look at Team XG?
Yeah, Team XG. So let's do that. Hold on a
Because
second.
I know that the fixtures are bad, but teams.
It's really bad though. These numbers are
It's
really
it's
bad.
like it's not just bad, is it? It's like next level.
The only thing is, right, I feel like it's been so long now, I'm going crazy, right? They still don't have a new manager, right?
No, they
Yeah,
don't.
what's going on there?
No, like, because every time I think about it, I think it's been ages now, so they must have one. Am I just being an idiot? But they don't. So the only thing I'm hoping for, no Scott Parker, that might be a good thing. I mean, look at Mitrovic right now, how bad he was last time. Everyone was remembering that. That was under Scott Parker, wasn't it? And look how good he is now. So that's my only hope
It's
when
been
you're
almost 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy. Maybe no one wants to manage him.
2.6 XG in 7 games.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really
Like it's so far below everybody else in this. It's the worst set play. It's the worst open play. It's just non-existent attack. But the only thing that I would say on a non-existent attack is they actually seem to like their work really hard in defence. And if he does get the only goal in a game, it's probably a 9-pointer.
Yeah. I think the other thing is he's 5.7 million. No one should be expecting him to score every week. He's literally like, if I had an extra 1.5 million, I would have Tony instead. It's as simple as that. It's that compromise, right? It's Solanke and Trent, or it's Trippier and Tony. And I'm sure a lot of people would argue that Trippier and Tony is better, but I want Trent long term, so I'm just getting him now. So my only option is Solanke. And if anyone can find me a better 5.7 million option right now in midfield, not in defence, but in midfield, I'd love to hear it. I just don't think there is one. And I think to me, it's a bit like the Pookie situation last year, that Norwich were really bad. Maybe not quite as bad as Bournemouth have been so far, but Pookie still got enough goals as the season went on, because if they score, he was likely to be involved. And I think it's the same with Solanke. So I know what's going to happen. He's going to blank for a couple of games. Everyone's going to be like, I told you so. Like, tell me what? I'm expecting a bunch of blanks in the next 8 weeks. I'm definitely not expecting 8 goals. That's for sure.
I think when I looked at this open play XG, so for audio people, Man City at the top with 11 XG and Bournemouth at the bottom with 2 XG. We have to remember that you've got 6 teams that have only played 6 games in this total, so they're a little bit less on this. So City second on 9 XG, but if they did 2 XG home to Brighton, it's their game they're missing out, then they're still up there as open play elite, but they're not scoring a lot open play wise. Only 9. They're basically tracking their XG. They've scored 9 from 9 XG, as opposed to City, who've scored 17 from 11 XG, because you kind of know that if Haaland gets like a 0.5 XG chance in the box, it's just going in. But their set play's good. Continues to be really strong. In terms of the output, certainly it's not at the XG, but they've got very good headers of a ball. Van Dijk, Matip back already, and that helps. I think Trent as well, having Matip back, that you've got suddenly the 2 people to aim at. But yeah, I mean, City. Are you considered going without Cancelo, either of you?
No.
Yes.
Oh, have you?
So my first draft, I went without him, with a view to get him back later on. But I've kind of just thought that I shouldn't. The thing for me is I just can see Man United scoring, right? We don't win that game. Of course, Man City win it. They're brilliant, etc. But I can see us scoring in that game. And then Liverpool away, I see Liverpool scoring there as well. And then they've got a blank. So I'm already looking at those next 4 game weeks thinking he's only got 1 clean sheet, which is Southampton at home. But I also know that he's good enough that there's also a chance he comes away with 2 or 3 clean sheets and maybe an attack and return. So I just don't think I can do it. There is a consideration there, but I just don't know if there's enough kind of upside. What I will say is Cancelo is probably going to be my transfer out. When I said I was going to probably transfer out one of the City Arsenal boys with a view to get them back. It will probably be Cancelo, for the simple reason that he loses the least amount of value. So he's only gone up 0.2, whereas Haaland's gone up 0.5 and Martinelli's gone up 0.6. So I might sell Cancelo in 12 for Trippier, which is why I'm not going with him from the start, and then switch back afterwards. This all relies on nothing else coming up, but that is kind of the rough plan. So I have considered it, yes, And I do think it's possibly viable, but I don't think I'm going to do it either. But if he blanks against Man United, then I won't be annoyed, obviously, because then we've scored, etc. But at that point, then I think maybe I should have gone without him, because I just don't see him getting a clean sheet at Liverpool away. It's just whether he can get enough attacking returns to kind of match it. But then Southampton could be a massive haul. So I think it's dodgy territory to go without him, essentially.
The upside is definitely there with him. I mean, if you think of the last game, obviously the Wolves game, no attacking returns, 3 bonus as well. So that's the thing that's frightening about it. I mean, and that's even with Haaland on the score sheet as well, which is normally, well, it's going to be there or thereabouts for Haaland. He doesn't miss too many big chances, so he does get a fairly decent baseline of like 5, which is half good.
Attack's too strong, mate. Attack's too strong. Just look at it. You kind of want to let more than one piece of the action there, innit? And just having one just doesn't feel right when we look at it. And we're going to look at defence in a minute, and it will make even less sense to have none of them. And know that Cancelo will always be 80% plus owned, and you are.
Do you know what though? I'm half on it. These are all rough plans, right? And everything needs to go to plan. But because of the way I'm setting up, right, there is a lack of transfers needed until that switch around, right, in game week 12 and 13. So if game week 11 I get there with 2 transfers and there's nothing else to do, then I'm considering taking out Cancelo that week. So doing Cancelo to the problem is there's not really a defender, an attacking one that's got a good game in 11 and 12, which is part of the issue. But Cancelo to Perisic or Sessegnon or whoever, is going to line up for Spurs that week against Everton at home, and then switch that player to Trippier and then switch back to Cancelo. But then that's 3 defender transfers in a row, and I can just feel that could go massively wrong. But I do think Cancelo will probably be the one I sell. I'm tempted to do the Haaland switch to Kane, but it's just a lot of money lost.
Yeah,
that's the only worry. I mean,
I talked about that earlier.
You've got to keep money in the bank to do it. Haven't you?
Exactly.
If you do it and you want to go back, you're going to lose money, and therefore you've got to have money in the bank to be able to get back.
I mean, who? Sorry, I know we're kind of going off point here a little bit, but who are you, Adam? Who are you thinking of captaining in game week 11 if you've not got a Spurs player? Are you just going to go with Haaland against Liverpool away?
I'm not sure.
Salah.
I thought that for.
Or Salah at home, of course. Yeah.
I think Liverpool City is goals nowadays. I mean,
before we get there, I'll have Mitrovic at that point.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Well, that's what I was That's why I was wondering. You're going to do the Tony to Mitrovic.
It could be Mitrovic in that week, and that's not to say. I mean, that could be 2, 3, whatever. That could be anything.
They've got Neto in goal now, though, mate. You've got to remember that.
Shit.
That is a worry.
I hate playing players against my own players. It's fine.
But yeah, I think it will become apparent. Look, the thing with Salah, you look on this, they are still creating. They are still doing it. They're kind of not overperforming, I guess, is kind of the issue with them. The Salah thing. Hey, look, he smashes it in 9, you'll definitely be captaining him in 11. Because you've almost this is the thing with the Wildcard 9, you literally contract yourself in almost to it, because you're like, hey, I've got Salah and nobody else has. I reckon a lot of people will have Salah come game week 9. I would not be surprised if his ownership is more near 80, 90%, because I think there'll be a lot of people, obviously in Wildcard, it'll go mad. I think there was a scout poll that said something like, half the people that are still got Wildcard in hand, which is 3/4 of the game, will use it now. So you're like, well, they'll all go Salah, and then they'll all captain Salah. So there's like 70%. Then there'll be the ones that kept him on Wildcard. And there were a few that did it, and then there'll be the panickers.
Yeah, I think it's easy to say now you don't want Salah. It's interesting though. I put a tweet out to ask for a bunch of wildcard drafts earlier, and I went through the first 100 replies. So obviously, and it was pretty standard, right? Haaland was in 98% of the teams. Like, fair play to the 2 people not going for him. And Salah was in 40%. So it's still quite low even now, but I do think that will creep up as you get closer to the deadline.
It'll be in all of them, the wild card, because it'll be like, because people will hear this, well, they're not going to see it, they hear you say it, mate, more than I say it.
Trust me, every time I mention Salah, I get in a lot of trouble for it. I feel like people are really just, I don't know, I think because Liverpool just haven't quite got the results, it really is playing on people's minds. But like you said, they're still top 2 attack, and they're still top 5 defense. So for a team that's apparently in a bad patch, that's not playing well, they're still doing like all the right things.
Yeah.
But I do think, I don't know if Adam feels like this. I feel like that Brighton game, it feels like there's so much riding on that, because if they blank to go into Arsenal away and Man City at home, that's not going to feel very fun when everyone's got like Son and De Bruyne and Kane and players like that. So I am a little bit worried, I'll be honest.
It definitely feels like it is a polarizing week. It feels like it's, and there's going to be a lot of hindsight merchants out there and everything as well. It's going to be chaos on the timelines.
Oh, either way, it will be. It'll be vitriol for those that do it. But there will be some that just go, "Hey, I'll have both," and I'll still captain Haaland and have Salah because it's like a guaranteed gain. It's in the dullest of dull senses when people are forgetting that there's another £12 million player in everyone else's team, which is either Kane or De Bruyne,
KDB in many, isn't it?
Yeah. But there's a lot, and Son. There's a few, but. I think loads of people will end up still. I think a lot of those KD, there'll be a lot of even just Man United fans that just go convince themselves it's going to be okay, and they'll go, "I'll go from KDB to Salah." And we've talked about it. KDB is playing very creatively, and
so
Salah is also playing very creatively. Is part of the issue, is with it. I mean. We were looking through. So this, what we're showing on here, you can get it off the Opta analyst site, but I find it remarkable is that Salah's the most creative player in the league. He's averaging 3.7 chances per game creating. And there is some weird stuff that I picked up from that site. They do some stuff on carries. I've never looked at chance creating carries before, but it's something about, players that drive with the ball and then either it results in a shot or an assist, a key pass as such. And you have some players like Kulusevski who's leading in carries, but he's done 13 carrying chances, 10 of which led to a pass and 3 of them led to a shot. And you think that kind of feels like what you think from Kulusevski. Then you've got players like De Bruyne, who's kind of mixed, half and half out of his 13 chances. You've got the selfish players like Demarai Gray, Zaha, St. Maximin, those type of players. And you were like, well, most of the times they just shoot. They run and shoot. And Salah has had 8 chance creating carries. 6 have been a pass and 2 have led to a shot. And you're like, that don't feel right to me. Like, that's the bit about it, is that so unselfish. Is it almost like, because Mane's not there, he's like, maybe he really hated Mane even more than we ever thought, and like he always wanted a pass.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes, like when you're watching a game and you're worried about a player, you really pinpoint the negative stuff. So when I watch Salah now, because I'm so worried he's not going to do something, every time he crosses the ball to Nunez, I think, oh God, that's Salah now. He doesn't shoot, he only crosses. But then I look at his numbers and think, well, his expected goal involvement per 90, to be fair, it is the lowest it's been for 6 seasons, but it's not that far behind. That's something that can easily change in a couple of games. So I feel like my eyes are like really worried about what he's doing, but he's still getting chances. I still just think back to that Bournemouth game, how he didn't even score in that game. Like, he gets on the end of that chance, like, what was it, 2 or 3 yards out, and suddenly everything changes a bit. So like, I see like comments in the chat about he's not worth 13 million. I agree. If you're not going to captain him at all, he probably isn't. But I'm looking at ahead, like, game week 12, West Ham at home when Haaland blanks. That's Salah captain for me. And Kane's got Man United away, so he might get something there. But for me, it's going to be Salah. So he's still worth the value to me because I will captain him. But if you're not going to, I guess there is a case to get rid of him. Yeah, 13 million. It is expensive.
I still think he's the best premium. Like, I don't think you can go away from it. And I don't think I'd be thinking
not better than
mad.
Haaland, though, right?
Like,
I mean, second best premium.
I do think though that the thing with strikers is that kind of like it's that sort of brace 13 points, isn't it? A good game, a really good game is a brace 13 points. But with the creativity of Salah at the moment, and that, if he scores and they keep it clean, like, that's 11 just for 1 goal. And there will come that time where he braces, where he does do or a brace and assist and do those things. So I still think he has that capability to outscore Haaland on days. You know, I think on that game week 11, I would captain Salah over Haaland at home. Definitely, I would. If I had the option on those two. So I do think when they've got similar fixtures, I can see it, albeit I've had two options and I've chose Haaland so far this season.
I gotta be honest, like even this week, I'd love to just go for the player that's not player Man United, but I'm like massive Salah fan. I'm still a bit wary, but I know what you mean. I think it's very easy now for everyone to kind of, you know, pipe up and just look what Haaland's doing, back-to-back hat tricks, etc. But do you know what I mean? He's just played Wolves and got 6 points, right? So he is human. Like there are going to be games where that happens. And like you said, it just always has been for years that midfield is just much easier to rack up those points, right? It's much harder for a forward to haul because that's just the game. So yeah, it is difficult to look past him right now. But I think obviously you two are exactly the same. I don't think Salah's done just yet. Just yet. Give him a few more games at least. They've had a nice break as well, right?
And when it bangs, you know, Adam had Son in last week.
I'm so jealous.
It makes such a difference, doesn't it? Like it makes such a difference.
I mean, the thing about Liverpool as well, they've obviously been missing Thiago as well those last few weeks, and that's made a complete difference to the way they attack. So,
and they've missed their fullbacks. Like their fullbacks haven't played this season. So
basically,
I think Matip helps quite a lot as well because in terms of like bringing the ball out and forward and forward passes and stuff like that, he's much better than Gomez. I think sometimes I think a lot of people I think sometimes people overplay how much like one player makes a difference, but having Thiago instead of James Milner is massive. It really is. So I do think that's gonna I agree with you, it's gonna help.
I'll be tempted on Matip. I genuinely would. I would be tempted on Matip, but
to own him, you mean?
Yeah.
He's 6, isn't he? Is he 6 million?
I think 5.9 or 5.8, whatever he is now, because he's not been playing. So I definitely wouldn't roll him out. He's the BPS monster of the team. He has goal threat. He has pass threat. You know, he comes forward with the ball beautifully. You know, you could see in that European game. It's so important to them. So important to them. Defense. Should we look at that?
Well, I was just going to say, there's a couple of questions in the chat. There's some questions on. There's a question about Haaland's price next season. That's a bit of a long shot, but if he continues, what do you think his price will be next season? That's a bit far fetched, but
14 million. Someone said it there. Harry Dawson said in the chat 14 million. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. And what else is in the chat? And I guess we've kind of answered that. Do you think there's enough of a difference between Liverpool improving and Salah not performing enough to justify 13 million? I guess we've kind of just touched on that.
Not as they're playing, but you just got to back the fact that world-class players, world-class managers, history and all the rest of it. The thing is, they lose a game and City win. Like, I'm already starting to think, is it just prioritise Champions League, which they need to do well in? Like, and suddenly do you see more rotations? But they can't afford to not be top four because... So
Salah always, but I mean, I think you've only got to look at Son, right? I feel because of what Salah's done so far. I mean, Salah's got like 5 returns or something like that. I know he's only scored twice, and he's had like a really hard time from the community. Whereas Son kind of seems to have got off scot-free, had no goals, and all of a sudden scores 3. Right? These players, like you said, are just quality. This happens at any moment, right? Last year, Salah, permanent captain, just like we're discussing with Haaland. That same thing happened last year. And then all of a sudden he wasn't the captain. These things will always happen. Obviously, we're all trying to get ahead. And, I'd love to not captain Salah when he's not going to score. But we can only try and predict what's going to happen with, the information we have. And I know what people keep saying about Salah. Like, it just hasn't looked quite as good. But it's like Son. Right? He can turn it around at any moment. If he scored a hat-trick against Brighton, would anyone really be shocked? I don't think so. I'm not saying that will happen, but you kind of get the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I do think there is a thing with Son that when Son was 25 yards out for that first goal, as soon as he shifted to that right foot, me and Adam already jumped up celebrating before he's hit the ball because you know that like he's off and he's gone. And then when he cut inside and he's onto his left foot, you're like, I'm already off. I'm already running to the corner because you just knew it. That doesn't happen with any other player in the league other than Son. And there is that. Salah does require a little bit of functioning. When the team function, they presented him with the good chances and he's not done that well with them. He is slightly dependent on the team. So but I think if you can put more focus on, say, do I think Thiago and Matip's going to do enough that they're going to suddenly be the team that I expect them to be? Decisions made, is he'll be fine. If you give him the opportunities, he'll be fine. Son can do it anytime, really. They're still fretting over. We can't fret. If you didn't have him, we just have to take it. We didn't have him, and Adam has to enjoy it.
Happy days. Happy days.
Defense. Let's look at defense.
Defensive stats. Because we didn't even talk about set pieces, did we? Really? Those highlighted.
Not a huge amount, other than probably on that attack on the pieces. One of the things I noticed was how reliant on set pieces Newcastle are. Like over a third of their XG comes from set piece. That's, for you saying no Trippier, Andy, over a third of their set play, a third of XG.
I don't like the idea of dropping Trippier, but it's currently where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
it's
big.
It's the same for Arsenal as well. Like, to be fair,
same for Arsenal, and again, that's the Martinelli thing. There's a really big point on Martinelli. They've had 4.4 XG from set play. All Spurs fans are saying set play Spurs because it's easy to say, it rolls off the tongue. Secondly, we've employed a set piece coach, which does really well for us, and it's working on the output. We've got 5 goals along with Liverpool and Arsenal now, but Arsenal, just from a pure XG perspective, they are racking it up, and Martinelli's got that left side knocked down, and Saka and Odegaard sort of share it a little bit, don't they, on the right?
Why does Son not take free kicks for Tottenham? We have no idea.
Nobody knows, mate. Nobody in the world knows why.
Banger today, that was
quality.
Unbelievable.
Let's get on to the defence then. Sorry about that. Let's go back to.
So no Cancelo. Who's that? Who's that top of the XG conceded there?
That was City from open play
with 2.8 XG in 7 games.
Yeah,
they haven't played Man United yet, though.
It's true. But then they got Southampton.
Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to. I wouldn't. I've considered it, but I wouldn't argue against people having him in. Obviously, I think from game week 13, I'd even like to have 2. To be honest.
Yeah, as I said, if you knew that, if Rodgers came out and said Everson was number 2, I'd put Ederson back on the table. Potentially.
Yeah. For me, it's the flexibility. I had Ederson before Wildcard, and I always felt like I needed that money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only thing. But I agree. Yeah, I think he's definitely a great option.
Yeah. Arsenal, good, but you can't really you can't really carry their defenders through a blank. So that's them. Brighton have been superb, but they also just missed a game. I'm really interested on what that means for them with a new guy. And even just this first game, haven't we got the Brighton Liverpool? So he is like a possession monster. And I expect him to play free at the back, and he will try and just invite teams onto them and play around it. And you're like, well, that could come massively unstuck against Liverpool. Or it could work really well. And that's part of that gamble, isn't it? On the Salah cap side of it. I feel like it could come really unstuck or it work out. But
so there's a little stat that I saw on Twitter earlier, Jockey FPL. He said Roberto De Zerbi picked up a Sassuolo side that averaged 43.2% ball possession in their first season, and then before he took over, and my little ones just started crying, if you can hear that, apologies, but and 54% in his first season, up from 43, up to 57.8% in his second season, and then 60.8% in his third season.
With a small team. You don't see that very often.
Yeah.
Like
impressive.
And there's
it could make a dull game. It could make a dull game for the weekend. But you just feel like if with a new manager, you get that new manager bounce, don't you? Or they score early, Liverpool, and suddenly it could be on. But I like that Carrie Webster option. I think that's a good option, 4.4. Liverpool still okay. West Ham, Fabianski, doing all right.
Yeah.
Defense is all right. The bottom ones, though, mate. Ward, Forest, Fulham, Bournemouth,
Not great.
Brentford. Brentford defense has been really bad this season. That's the problem. Those guys that were top of the ticker, the Bournemouth, the Fulham, the Leicester, the Everton, the Villa, they're all there. Palace, they're all there.
Yeah, it's why the one Adam's got, Nick Pope, is probably the play. It's just whether or not you're happy to make those sacrifices. Like, you're right. I definitely don't want double Leicester goalkeepers. I don't want Neto. I don't want Leno. They're just going to concede. And I think, like, in days gone past and seasons gone past, we'd pick them up because there was no other options to go for, and we would get those save points. But there are lots of goalkeepers at 5 million that are pretty decent now. I think. So even like Ramsdale, for example, I think he's only 4.9, isn't he? So he's a little bit cheaper, but only if you can rotate him. And it comes back to that thing we said earlier.
Same thing, mate.
Yeah, this is my big problem with goalkeepers.
But again, if we get the nod, I mean, you just need to know that Ward's done for. But if not, you just can't have Arsenal or City, and they're the best two defenses so far. Yeah, Cancelo. How do you stay away from it? How do you stay away from it?
You don't watch Man City games. That's what you do. If you don't go for him, that's essentially it.
What about your boys though, like a Dallo on Wildcard?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's only 4.5, so he probably is the one to go for if you really want one. I think 4.5. I think goalkeepers and 4.5 million defenders are probably like two of the biggest things. It really just depends when you want to play him. So game week 12 blank, we play you at home, so that's probably not a great time to have him. And even if you were like, you had Trippier and you wanted to bench him for the United and Spurs away games, it's Newcastle at home, which is okay, and then it's Chelsea away in game week 13. So I think the problem with someone like Dallo, the fixtures you really want him for are like game weeks 14, and even then in 15, 16, they're both away games. So I just don't think he really fits that well. And I look, Man United, I think, have been all right. They may be steadily improving, slowly, I would say. I don't think we're in a point where you want to play Dallo every week. So I just don't think he fits in the weeks you're going to need him for the most part. So I will probably ignore him.
I mean, from a United point of view, a United perspective, like in a general point, do you think these 2 weeks off came at a bad time after you? I mean, obviously it feels like. Do you think it came at a bad time after beating Arsenal? Do you think that you felt like that could have been a good point, a good position for you guys to kick on and at least build up some momentum? As you sort of go into this funny period with City, Tottenham, and Chelsea, and Newcastle in there as well, and a defense that's half decent in West Ham, so we can see. Do you think are there any attacking options from United maybe that you consider at all?
I don't think so, really. I mean, it would have been nice to get that Leeds game done at home. I think that would have been decent. But I think, like, Martial is still injured. Ronaldo's not starting. Rashford's also injured. I don't know if he's going to be back. I think he would be the one I would look at. But then you look at those fixtures, and it's not just the fixtures. It's also, if you think about the wild card, I would say the template midfield is Salah, Martinelli, Zaha, Maddison for most people. I know you've got Foden instead, but those four, like, that means you also have to take one of them out for a Man United midfielder, and that just doesn't sound nice at all.
I think there's just better options in it more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and someone like Eriksen's probably playing. I feel like with Eriksen, he's going to help us score goals, but it's a very cliche thing to say, but he's probably going to make the pass before the guy that passes for the goal. A lot. You saw that with, I think it was Rashford against Arsenal, right? He played the ball to Fernandes, then Fernandes played the final ball. And I think you'll see that quite a lot because he's just playing so deep for Man United. So, I just don't think we're options. I do think we're going to be options after Christmas. But that's a little bit far ahead, I know. But we've got Forest and Bournemouth first 3 game weeks. So if you want Man United players, just hold tight. After the World Cup, we'll be getting back on them.
The ones we haven't really spoke about, because they're literally bang middle of the table on this. They're 9th on XG attack and 11th on XG conceded defense is Chelsea. They're literally a mid-table team on stats at the moment. Is James a lock for both of you?
Yeah. Because I think if you
just can't see.
Yeah, if you look at the attacking numbers for the defenders, like I think I was looking at earlier, he's like 0.35 expected goal involvement per 90. Trent's 0.19 and Cancelo's 0.09, I think. So he's still like ahead of all of them. And I think, I don't know what you guys think, but I know it's probably going to take a bit of time under Potter, but I've got quite a bit of confidence about how well he's going to get them set up defensively too. So I just feel like it's James is a basic no-brainer. He's so cheap as well. So cheap.
Yeah, I agree. Well, cheap though, why not Fofana as well?
Well, I don't know about you guys. That first lineup has put me off a bit because I think that Cucurella is going to get a lot of minutes at left centre back now because he played there so much for Brighton, and that only leaves then 2 spots. And we know that Silva's going to play a lot. Or I assume so anyway, right? He always did under Tuchel. I don't see why he wouldn't under Potter. So that leaves 1 centre back spot for Koulibaly or Fofana or Azpilicueta or I don't know, Reece James is the right centre back. I don't think that's going to happen very often, but that's the only thing putting me off. Like the counterpoint is, I just don't see how Fofana doesn't play as well.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think Cucurella being left centre back straight away and Sterling left wing back, that is kind of, it's just narrowed down the amount of spots Fofana can play in.
I don't think you can muck about though either because of wanting to carry Arsenal and City. You want to carry as many of them as you can for that 13. You know, you just said it. You know, both of you looked at. You'd want at least 2 of them out the other side. So therefore, you need playing bench, and you're like, the last thing I want is a rotation defender. You just can't do it. And that, I think, for me, that would also count with Perisic. Like, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't. 2 away games anyway. Next up, but I don't think you could go there on any player that you think's potentially rotation.
I think with Fofana as well, obviously 4.4 for a Chelsea defender is incredible value. And I'm sure at some point we will all be on him. But it's not like he's also got massive attacking threat that you're happy to take that punt for. It's literally just for the clean sheets. They got so many away games. And I don't know if he's going to play. It just doesn't. And we've got a blank to contend with, like you said. It's just too much, I think, right now.
Yeah. I think there's some, from the other teams, there's some, just looking at the things there, I think of people like Sinistera at Leeds or even Rodrigo back, you know, if he comes back and keeps playing, like we should know by then, hopefully, as to where they're at that. Leicester in 12 and Fulham in 13 and Bournemouth in 15. People might punt off Martinelli to that. That could happen to a Sinistera or Rodrigo, but yeah.
I know Praz implied, didn't he, that he was looking at selling Martinelli. I don't know how likely that is. I don't know who for. Maybe Barnes. Sinistera.
He won't do that, mate. Like we had him like he's the safest man on earth.
That's what I mean. 6 million. Like it's so much to lose, and I don't agree that we're not going to want him back. That's the thing. You know, I think he was saying after the World Cup. I don't know how sure he is about this, but after the World Cup, we might not want him. But it's Southampton, Forest, and Wolves still before the end of the season, before game week 16. Like so. Yeah, that's my big problem. I just can't sell him. Just can't sell Martinelli.
End of season, part 1. That's what it's like.
It's
like
much.
June, isn't it? You've got like 2 years between them. Yeah. Oh, one thing back on those defenses, just to throw in the Guaita stat. I mean, just the one I see this with Guaita. Guaita for some reason reminds me of it like a Shay Given type character in that he's not the biggest and just stays in his line for set pieces, and he kind of gets away with it that he's never really at fault, but before you know it, they've conceded 100 goals from set pieces, and they've got away with it a little bit so far. They've only conceded 2 goals from set pieces, but 4.17 set piece XG. Honestly, a lot of that is him. A lot of that is him just standing on his line all the time, and I can see that teams are just going to continue to target it. That would be a worry for me. With Sam Johnston, because Sam Johnston used to come big and punch for West Brom. He used to come for a lot of corners. They can't carry on with that because no team, even Leicester, you watch Tottenham Leicester, you felt like every corner was going to go in, and Palace are worse than Leicester.
Yeah, I'm worried. I think another goal. We haven't talked about this, but I think I would consider the double up on Chelsea if you could tell me which goalkeeper was going to start the next game. But again, I know I've a broken record now. Goalkeepers are so annoying this week. If you told me Kepa was going to start, he probably would be my goalkeeper. But again, I just can't take the risk with.
No.
Yeah, so like you're making me more worried about Guaita than I was before we started this.
Yeah, but you've got a Leicester keeper for backup, so you're fine.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Adam's sitting there with Pope, you know,
I'm loving it.
and we didn't talk
Yeah.
about that, but in your draft, but you actually, I feel like it's like the wild card in stages because you've got Tony because you got on him at 7.0, you've got Trippier because you got on him at 5.1, and you got on Pope at 5.1, didn't you?
I could have had Trippier at 5.0, but I actually missed the transfer.
You've actually, in the end, ended up like with a 3-4 week wild card.
As stupid as it sounds, though, and I put together. You'll notice that on Andy's team, he's got Solanke as captain, and that's because the image that you sent through, Andy, it wasn't quite clear. So I went and rebuilt it. I don't have enough money for this team.
Yeah, my team value is pretty good.
I'm
because
short by 0.3 million to make your team.
Yeah, my team value is pretty good. But again, the reason I'm struggling, with getting that Pope money is because I want to start with Trent, Cancelo, and James. Because I just like for your team, we didn't talk about it, but like you've obviously got Foden, which you've got a transfer booked in, maybe Tony as well. So, like, do you even have? Sorry, do you even have a plan? That sounds a bit aggressive. Like, have you got a plan for Trent? Like, or are you just not bothered with him?
Just not bothered with him at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, because this is my thing. It's just if you want Trent and Cancelo, everything else becomes a bit tougher. So it's whether you. I guess basically you're choosing to make a Trent sacrifice, and I'm possibly choosing to make a goalkeeper one instead.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, I think that is the beauty about if you want to go Trent is that you are going to. He is one where you're definitely going to be able to, like, you haven't been able to have single defensive ownership games from Liverpool for ever.
Yeah, for a long time, yeah.
And you will be able to have that because most of us on game week 8 wildcard can't get anywhere near him.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of people went. I think like Rockstar kept him, and a few others kept him, but very few kept him on game week 8, and I've got no way of getting to him in the next 3-4 weeks. You know, all I'm looking at is how do I make sure I've got enough money to get to Salah. You know, that's going to be the issue in itself. But yeah, Trent, if you can get him, but I would be a little bit worried about Gomez. I'd be a little bit worried about Gomez.
I was just going to answer this quick question. I was just going to answer this quick question about Pickford and Begovic. I think we already spoke about it earlier, but yes, we agreed that actually it's a pretty good option because we don't know whether Pickford's back, and you know it's Everton's fixtures are quite good. So if you want to go there, you can certainly.
And they're playing dull football where they're getting over.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we're 3 minutes away from England's kicking off, so I think we should look to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I know we weren't as active as you would normally expect from a stream with Andy, where he's literally answering all your questions. Very much more a podcast style approach, but we have tried to answer some. So hopefully we've helped even through the discussion as well. Andy, appreciate you coming on, mate. It's just been really good to have the discussion. And yeah, I guess
week to go.
A week to go.
Week of tinkering.
Let's hope we get some price rises. That's what
they're dead, aren't they? I already knew. I think at this point we all know they're like this, but like it is just dead out there for price changes.
Have you actually hit the button yet?
Yes, I did it straight away. I don't know about you, but my previous 2 weeks transfers have basically made it so that I had to wildcard in 8 or 9. Like it wasn't. There was never going to be any other week. So
I mean, I'm just making transfers, but I haven't hit the button yet. So
yeah, you're playing the pro side.
I'm trying to contribute to the price rises by
just don't miss it. There's people have done that. Very hyper, like winners of FPL have done that next season. They missed the button.
Yeah. I will not miss the button. Don't worry. And to everyone that has been watching, if you have enjoyed the conversation today, make sure you do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'd imagine you're already subscribed to Andy anyway, because everyone in the world seems to be.
Everyone in the world is.
But yeah, mate, keep doing great content. It's I mean, it's amazing because out of anyone, I always watch your stuff. I just really find it easy to watch it. Yeah,
it's the greatest.
It is.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And vote for Andy in the FCAs. Anybody who's watching this for us, vote for Andy in the FCAs.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Jones. Thanks for having me on.
Lovely.
Good stuff. Well,
come on, England.
Come on, England.
Come on, Harry.
We're not back Sunday. Is that we've got Sunday off?
We've got Sunday off. No, but we're on a podcast next Wednesday.
We're going to do a podcast next Wednesday with Nima and Clayton, the Arsenal fans. North London derby next Saturday. It's going to get feisty.
Yeah. So no more FPL videos until we might
Wednesday.
do.
No, we'll do it. They'll come to us. They're going to have to come. We're not going to there. They come to us.
Okay. All right. So
You've got
to
do the work.
Oh,
yeah, you've got to do the work. You've got to do the work.
Jesus.
You get Sunday off, so it's all good.
You've got Sunday off.
Right.
I've got Sunday off. Like I work, I do all the work for these streams. Got the Bills top on here. Get to watch Red Zone on Sunday night. It's going to be a dream.
We'll leave it there.
See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.